Hi, this is Kate Reynolds, and I am back on video with another Instant Pot class. Some of you may remember me from doing classes here at Reddick Library, where we cook some of our favorite Instant Pot recipes, and we learn to not be afraid of our pressure cooker. I wish we could be in person, but since we can't, I am here with 3 fall favorites, and we are going to be making a chili, a pretty basic chili with an optional fall inspiration. We're going to make a deconstructed chicken pot pie as well as a pumpkin pie steel cut oatmeal. We're going to go ahead and get started with the chili first. The ingredients are pretty standard for a chili. This is a beef chili that we're making today. You can use ground turkey. You can omit if you are looking for a vegetarian option. Beef is a family favorite of ours, and we are going with that since it is most standard. The other ingredients that you're going to need are an onion and garlic and pepper. I did chop them ahead of time to make it easy for this video, as well as some canned pumpkin if you are going to do the fall inspired version, tomato paste, diced tomatoes, a can of light red kidney beans, some chili beans, mild diced green chilies, unless you like a kick, then go for the hot. And we have cumin, oregano, chili powder, paprika, cinnamon, pepper, salt, and pumpkin pie spice. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I am going to turn my Instant Pot. I'm going to hit the saute so that it will start heating from the bottom to make it so that I can brown my meat and caramelize my onions and pepper. So as we wait for this to get hot, I am going to say I am using 96% lean ground beef. Now I am doing this to make this recipe as easy as possible. You can use whatever meat you have and brown it and then drain the fat like you would any other recipe, or if you are looking for a true dump and go meal using a very lean meat, you don't need to drain any fat and you can just get the recipe going even quicker, get dinner on the table for your family. So I am saying using very lean meat. I am going to put about a tablespoon of oil, any cooking oil. This is avocado, has a high smoke point. And I'm going to pour a little bit into the bottom of my pot. And I like to kind of test with my hand and see if I can feel the heat starting. And I am going to brown the ground beef as well as cook, like I said, I have 1 medium-sized onion diced, and I have 1 pepper diced, as well as 3 cloves of garlic. That's where all the flavor is. You want to make sure that you get that in there. I'm going to open my beef. I'm going to dump it in. I am using the tools that come with your Instant Pot. This is the paddle. You can use it while you're breaking up ground meat. You can use it to stir as you're cooking. And then the other utensil that comes with is a ladle, and that is handy for when we go to serve our chili. So I have the beef in there, and as it heats up, it will start browning. You'll be able to hear the sizzle. And what's nice about your Instant Pot tools is it has a little flat end, and you can stand them up so they don't sit and get a mess all over. So I have the beef in there, and now I'm adding the 1 onion, the 1 pepper, and the 3 cloves of garlic. Want to make sure to get all of that onion in there. And this is where it starts smelling really good, and you can't wait for dinner to be done. So this is browning up nicely. It will take a while, but the small amount of fat that's in the beef will help give flavor to the onions and the garlic as they cook. So I am going to let that continue sauteing while I go over a couple of the nice things about this chili is that it does utilize a lot of canned ingredients to make it easy to dump them all in, but it's not without some effort. This is a nice family recipe. And like I said, there is an optional fall twist. We're adding some canned pumpkin and pumpkin pie spice to this. It does not make it sweet. It does not make it taste like a pie, but it gives it a really nice October feeling, a little nuttiness, and my family really, really enjoys this. You can leave it out and it will be a great standard chili. It's very customizable. Like I said, if you feel like using turkey for this chili, you can. If you are one that likes to have a lot of vegetables in your chili, add what you like. I would add them when you are browning the meat so that they can start getting tender early. All right, so our meat is browned and our vegetables are tender, so I am going to go ahead and carefully reach around. You don't want to put your face over the InstaPot. I'm going to hit cancel, so that turns off the saute function. And now that it is off, it's still hot, the meat in there and everything is still sizzling, I'm going to add my other ingredients. This is the nice thing about a chili, it is a dump recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and start by adding a can of diced tomatoes. You don't need to drain any of your cans. And again, since I used the lean meat, there is no fat to drain off, which makes this super handy. Next, I'm going to add in my chili beans. You can see on the can, they are mild. This is a mild chili, family friendly. My kids are 4 and 6, they love it. It is not spicy at all. If you feel like a spicy chili, definitely go for the hot versions of anything that I'm using and it'll give it a kick. Next, I'm going to add in the light red kidney beans. And the mild fire roasted diced green chilies. These give it a wonderful flavor and almost a little bit of that back of the throat heat without being spicy. Like I said, my kids can enjoy this no problems. And then we are adding our pumpkin and tomato paste, which I already have measured out here. You don't want to use an entire can of pumpkin. You want to use about 3/4 of a cup of pumpkin puree. It does not make the entire chili taste like pumpkin, just gives it a good nuttiness. And then as well as 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Go ahead and get that out of here. Next, we're going to move on to adding all of our spices. So let's start with our chili powder. We want to add 2 tablespoons of chili powder. You can't go wrong with a little more. It definitely gives the flavor. And I'm not going to stir everything together until the end. Next is our cumin. We are adding a tablespoon of that. A teaspoon of oregano. One and a half teaspoons of salt. And you can adjust this as necessary if you think that the sodium is high in the cans that you're using. Go ahead and cut back. This does not make it for a very salty chili. The diced tomatoes that I used were low sodium, no salt added. And then we are putting a teaspoon of paprika. And I am just going to sprinkle a little pepper in. Maybe if I can get it open. Since I did add the pumpkin in, now I'm going to move into my pumpkin pie spice, which we are using a teaspoon of. And this will definitely make it taste like fall. And a teaspoon of cinnamon. Now I am going to stir those ingredients together and get a look at how the chili is looking before I add in the broth. Now I have a cup of broth here measured out. You can use whatever kind you have. If you have, an open carton of vegetable broth, beef broth, chicken broth, it does not matter. It won't affect the flavor much because we have so many spices and different ingredients going on in there. It is to make sure that you have enough liquid so that your pot can come to pressure. Now, of course, the chili in here with the liquid in the cans, it is liquid, but you can get a burn notice if you don't have enough clear liquid in your pot while you are cooking. And to avoid that, I will add anywhere from ½ cup to 1 cup of broth while cooking so that it does not burn. We don't have a hard cleanup at the end. All right, so everything is mixed together. And I think, based on how it's looking, I'm gonna add maybe about 3/4 of a cup of broth and give that another stir and make sure that it loosens everything from the bottom and I don't have anything burnt on from browning the meat earlier. And you see me touching the top of this pot. It is not overly hot from sauteing, so you can definitely hold on as you do. So that is all stirred together, and that is all you do to prep the chili. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lid, which if you didn't know, the handle does fit on the side of your pot to keep it out of the way while you are prepping your food or when you are ready to serve. So I'm going to put the lid on, and you hear the little chime, and you turn it, and now you're ready to cook. You want to make sure that the toggle up here, there is venting when it's open, and there is sealing when you are ready to pressure cook. And you want to make sure that you hit that toggle over to sealing. If you are afraid of your toggle, whether something is at pressure or in general because you're afraid of your pot, again, these nice little handy dandy tools that come with it have a loop here, a hole. It fits the toggle. You can turn it from venting to sealing while staying back, staying away, and being safe. So now we are going to I'm going to hit pressure cook. I have the Instant Pot Duo model. If you have the Instant Pot Luxe, your button for high pressure would be manual. So I'm going to hit pressure cook, and the default for that is high pressure, and I'm going to set it for 20 minutes. The last thing that I cooked was for 32. So I'm just going to hit minus until I get to 20, and I'm going to do nothing else. You don't need to hit start. You don't need to time it any other way. I have it on, set to sealing, pressure cook for 20 minutes. Once this comes to pressure and 20 minutes have elapsed, it will say LO, and then it will say 00 and start counting up from there. And that lets you know that it is done and it's been sitting for X amount of minutes. And we will get to that and what happens after once this comes to pressure and cooks. Okay, so the next recipe that we're going to get started while the chili is cooking is our Instant Pot chicken pot pie. This, of course, is not your typical oven baked with a crust, but this is a wonderful, truly dump recipe for when you are short on time. Many of us may be at home a lot more right now, but that doesn't mean that we're not busy. We're all busy, either still working or remote learning or at school and coming home. This is a wonderful recipe when it is 4:30 and you realize that you forgot dinner. So this is one that you truly take the ingredients, dump them in, and you have dinner in a few minutes. It is a family favorite. It's comforting and pretty versatile. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. The ingredients, we have some chicken breast, which I have cubed into about 1/2 inch to 1 inch cubes. That was a pound of chicken. You can use thighs or breasts, whichever your family prefers. And I have diced potatoes. This was 2 medium potatoes, diced. And then again, I have half of an onion and 3 cloves of garlic, diced. There are 2 ways to do the vegetables for this. I am all about easy. You can go to your store and get yourself a bag of frozen mixed vegetables. If you don't want to go that route, I did put, you can dice carrots and get corn and frozen peas to add in. I'm going for easy with the pre-measured bag of mixed vegetables. I also have your usual salt, pepper, chicken broth, and poultry seasoning. This is pretty easy to find right now in the fall because everybody's getting ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but it is available year-round. And then once we are done with this portion of the recipe, we do finish it with a butter and flour paste and some milk. These do not get put in with everything else to cook the chicken pot pie. So we are going to start with our cup of chicken broth and dump that in, followed by our chicken. You do not need to pre-cook the chicken. You can use frozen chicken. If you are using frozen chicken, you do not need to alter the time that you cook the recipe for, because it will just take longer to heat up and come to pressure. That's one of the really nice things about using a pressure cooker, is that you can use frozen meats if you truly forgot dinner and you're still gonna have dinner ready in time. This is thawed out. Like I said, 1 pound, give or take, of chicken breasts, cubed. Now we're going to add in our diced potatoes, our onion and garlic, it's really difficult here. I am going to cut open the bag of mixed vegetables. And you don't want to thaw these out ahead of time. You do want them frozen if you are using the freezer vegetables. You want them frozen because that way the peas and the corn aren't going to turn to mush as they pressure cook. So I'm going to dump those in. This particular blend has corn, peas, carrots, and green beans. Use what your family likes and prefers. And we are going to add 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning, a generous heaping teaspoon. This gives it that really comforting, classic flavor. And a ½ teaspoon of salt, which I'm just going to sprinkle on. And a half teaspoon of pepper and a ½ teaspoon of salt. And I am going to again use my paddle and give this a stir. As I said when we were making the chili, you just want to make sure that you have at least a cup of clear liquid so that your Instant Pot does not scald or burn all of your food. So now that that is all in there, I am going to put my lid on. And I am going to make sure that my Instant Pot is set to sealing. And I am going to come again to the pressure cook, again manual if you have the Lux, otherwise your pressure cook button, so that it is default high pressure. And I'm going to set it for 5 minutes. That's all it takes because we're going to be utilizing a natural pressure release method, which lets it continue cooking a little bit after our time is done. So I'm going to hit pressure cook, and I'm going to hit the minus button until it comes down to 5 minutes. Now, if we had, and that's all I'm going to do to get that started, if I had put a full chicken breast in there, not cut up, I would have set the time longer. The reason for dicing the chicken up ahead of time is that it cooks in a shorter amount of time so that it cooks about the same time frame of all the vegetables so that you don't end up with a bowl full of mush. So now that's gonna cook, and when it is done, we are going to let it sit for at least 6 minutes after with a natural pressure release. Okay, and our final recipe that we are going to make together today is our Instant Pot pumpkin pie steel cut oatmeal. This is such a good recipe to make ahead if you want to have a warm breakfast all week long, but you only want to cook once. We are going to, again, be completely a dump recipe. We're going to dump everything in, cook it, and this oatmeal, you can double it. Now I am making a batch in my 3-quart Instant Pot, which is the Instant Pot Mini, so I'm not going to double it here. But if you have the standard 6-quart or the bigger 8-quart, you can double, you can triple the recipe and it will fit, and then you can have a lot if you have a large family or you want oatmeal for the whole week. It will store in the fridge for at least 4 to 5 days, which makes it perfect to have oatmeal for every day of the work week. So we're gonna get started. Like I said, this is truly a dump recipe. We have steel cut oats. Now a lot of people don't usually make their oatmeal with steel cut, but to hold up to pressure cooking, these are the best oats to use. You can use old-fashioned. You do not want to use quick oats in your pressure cooker. It will just turn into complete mush. The steel cut are going to maintain a good texture, almost a little bit of chewiness, which is just exactly what you want. They still get creamy and they are delicious. And then I have canned pumpkin. You don't want to get pumpkin pie filling that has other ingredients added. This is just 100% pure pumpkin puree. Then we have brown sugar. If you prefer, you can use maple syrup. You can use a different natural sweetener of your choice. I like to use brown sugar. And then we have a little bit of salt, the very necessary pumpkin pie spice, and vanilla extract, as well as 2 cups of water. Now when we are finished making these oats, I like to serve them. I'll put a scoop in a bowl and then I will pour my milk of choice over it and stir it together to make a nice creamy bowl. The milk also helps to cool it off so I can eat it sooner. I do have regular milk with us today. You can use almond, cashew, oat, whatever you like. It's not going to change since we are not cooking with the milk. So I am going to put 1 cup of steel cut oats directly into the pot. And if anybody is looking for these and can't find them, I found them in the natural grocery section at Kroger. You can also find them at Walmart or online. And 2 cups of water. And a 3rd cup of pumpkin puree. If you really like it, you can of course use more for more flavor, more fiber. This is a nice, healthy recipe. It keeps you feeling full for a long time because it is slowly digested. So we are going to put the heaping 3rd cup of pumpkin puree into the pot. I'll make sure we get that all in there. And 1½ teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. Again, they're kind of heaping measurements here because I know how good it tastes. And a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, so I'm just going to do a little sprinkle. 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. And a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to take my paddle and I'm going to stir these around. You want to make sure that you kind of break up the lump of the pumpkin puree in there and make sure that there isn't anything sticking to the bottom, like part of the oats that didn't get mixed with water. You want to make sure that everything's mixed together and not too many spices are stuck up on the side because we want them to all cook together. All right, that's looking good. And that's all there is to it to get that ready. And we are going to close the lid. Again, we're going to make sure that we set it to ceiling. You don't want to forget that. It has to be set to ceiling for this to be able to come to pressure. And we are going to cook it high pressure for 4 minutes. Set to ceiling. And once this is done, we're going to let this naturally pressure release for at least 15 minutes. This is one of those, you can get this going and then go hop in the shower in the morning or get your kids ready for school, do whatever you need to do. You don't need to sit and watch this recipe. It can just keep sitting there, releasing the pressure on its own until you're ready to eat it. The pot will keep it warm, and you just want to make sure that it has at least 15 minutes to sit there as the oats continue to cook and absorb all of the liquid. Okay, so our chicken pot pie has finished cooking, and if you can see on the front, it actually says LO08. That means that it's been done cooking for 8 minutes. Now it's actually counting up. So it has naturally released. That means that we aren't going to the toggle and letting the steam fly right away. It's still cooking in there as the pressure slowly decreases. But we wanted to let it sit for at least 6 minutes, which we have done. So we're going to release the rest of the steam. Again, if it frightens you, you can use this toggle. We are going to release any remaining steam. And I like to do what's called a controlled release. I slowly start releasing the pressure so that if there's any liquids, etc. built up, it's not going to spew all over and make a mess. Oftentimes I have my pot sitting on the counter near the cabinets. This cuts down a lot on the mess, so I'm going to slowly release the remaining pressure. And this way, if it does start spewing any liquid, I can stop and let some of that pressure or the foam kind of die down before I start again. Now I did just go ahead and flip that all the way open. You can kind of hear a difference. It is not high pressure. The steam isn't all the way up here. It is slowly releasing the rest of the pressure, and eventually the pin will drop, letting you know that all the pressure has been released and it is safe to open. You don't need to be afraid about opening your Instant Pot. Unlike, if you have a stovetop pressure cooker, things like this is a safety mechanism. This cannot open if the contents are still under pressure. There is a switch inside that locks it during pressure. So it's always going to be safe. You don't want to open the lid with your face right there and get a steam burn. You want to make sure that you're back. But if this pin drops and it allows you to start turning and opening, it is safe to do so. So you can see the steam has almost completely died down, and that little click was just the pin dropping. So this has completely depressurized. I am going to turn my lid, and I'm going to open. I'm going to open the lid away from me to avoid the steam. And then I'm going to stick the lid in that side that I showed you earlier. Now I'm going to take my paddle and I am going to give the ingredients inside a little stir. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit cancel, because that's going to turn off the keep warm function. And I want to hit saute again, because I am going to be adding milk, and then I'm going to be adding butter and flour. Now, for this recipe, I have it as a paste. I have 1 tablespoon of butter and 1 tablespoon of flour mixed together. This is taking the place of making a stovetop roux. This will help to thicken it into that nice creamy gravy that you want in a pot pie. So I have half a cup of milk. You can use half and half, you can use cream, however rich you want it to be. And I'm going to stir and slowly add this in. I'm not going to dump it in super fast. You don't want your milk to curdle. And once that's all in, and now I'm going to wait, it'll only take a minute or two, for the contents to start to bubble and boil again. And when it starts bubbling, I know that it's time to stir in my butter and flour. And I'm looking and it actually is already bubbling, so that takes less than a minute because it was already so hot from pressure cooking. So I'm going to carefully shake in or dump in the butter and flour paste and give that a stir. And then I'm gonna let this cook and bubble for a few minutes until that paste, that version of a roux, till it starts to thicken the gravy. And once it does, I can cancel and hit keep warm, and then the contents of this will stay warm until you're ready to serve. Now I'm actually ready to serve this right now, just to show you what it will look like. So I am going to ladle some. I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to ladle some of this delicious pot pie and gravy. And then to make it a lot more like a pot pie, you can use biscuits, rolls. Today I am using a croissant, and you can serve them together and you have yourself a deconstructed pot pie. All right, now our chili has finished cooking and it has been sitting for at least 10 minutes. So we are going to release the pressure on this as well. If you are busy, if you run to the store, if you're running an errand, if you're doing something else in the house, this can continue to sit. It can naturally pressure release all on its own. This could be something that you got going in the morning before you left for work, and then it sits and it's gonna switch over. It's switched over to keep warm, and the pot is just going to keep it warm just like a crock pot until you are ready to serve it. But after 10 minutes, it's ready. It can be switched over, vented, and released. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. We are going to vent any remaining pressure. Again, I'm doing a controlled release. And I'm just doing this in case I notice that a lot starts spewing, then I'll be able to toggle it back. Whenever you start releasing the steam, that's when you really start to smell what you've made, and it smells really good. This is such a yummy recipe, one of our favorites. And you can't go wrong with a bowl of chili with cornbread in the fall. So I am letting the rest of that steam come out. You can hear it starting to kind of get quieter and quieter as all the pressure releases. And I'm just coming over here and I'm checking. Okay, it says LO15. It's been sitting for 15 minutes. But if you were able to be here in person, you can see there is a little light on keep warm. That just means that the warm function is on. If the pot were to cool below, I think it's 200 or 220 degrees, then the heating element would turn on enough to keep it at a food safe temperature until you are ready to serve it. That's what the keep warm function does. It's really handy. But then with this time on, you're able to, if you have left the room and you've come in, you've been like, oh, okay, that's been done cooking for however many minutes or hours, it will continue to count up. And it's just a really handy way to know if you were timing how long something needed to sit. So my pin has not dropped yet. It is still under pressure. There is still steam releasing. So you can see if I were to try to take this lid off, there is a locking mechanism and I can't do it. There's no way that this is going to explode or implode on me. It is stuck until the pin drops and releases the locking mechanism. You don't need to be afraid of your Instant Pot. I know a lot of people are. It's new. It sounds freaky. The pressure cookers, that our grandmas or our moms used on the stovetop, which are still great and have a purpose for sure. They were a little different. Those were a little scary. Some people have seen a lot of traumatic things, had them explode, go all over. There are so many different wonderful safety mechanisms in your electric pressure cooker. So there was a click, the pin dropped. So I am going to double check Just gonna move that toggle, make sure that all the pressure is released. I'm going to turn and again, open the lid away from me so that I don't get any steam burns. This smells so good. And I am going to stick the lid right there in the handle, and I am going to give this chili a nice stir. Now, if you are someone that likes a really thick chili, you don't like a lot of excess liquid, you can definitely either thicken it with a slurry, or you can hit the saute function and let some of the liquid evaporate as it boils for a few more minutes. This is not overly runny. This is a great chili consistency, but if your taste's stiffer, those are some options to thicken it. So then to serve it, we like to serve a nice bowl of chili, and you can of course top with sour cream and cheese if that's the way that you like it. And in my house, you cannot have chili without some cornbread. And now our final recipe is finished, the pumpkin pie steel cut oats. It cooked for the 4 minutes and it has been sitting for at least 15. Now, with this, the pressure actually already completely released on its own. I can look at my InstaPot and I can see that the pin dropped. That 15 minutes allowed all of the pressure to be released. I still will check my valve. I'm going to toggle it and see no steam escapes. That doesn't mean that something's stuck. I can look and I can see that my pin, which is the indicator of if your pot has come to pressure or not, is down. There is no more pressure remaining. So it is safe for me to open up the pot and see my beautiful steel cut oats that smell just like pumpkin pie. And I am going to give them a stir. And now with this, you do want to be careful not to just put your bare hand right on the metal pot where it was cooking. Use a pot holder if you're trying to touch this, but it stays in place enough for you to give it a spin. And now you can serve yourself a nice, generous helping of this beautiful fall oatmeal. And like I said, I like to serve mine with a little bit of milk, add to the creaminess, and stir it in, and have yourself some pumpkin pie for breakfast.